The Amazon is more than just the world's largest rainforest. It's a vault, a natural time capsule. Spanning a territory larger than Western Europe, it is a living, breathing world of unparalleled biodiversity. For centuries, we saw it as a place without history, a primordial wilderness untouched by complex civilization. We called it the Green Hell, a vast, impenetrable jungle where nature reigned supreme and humanity was merely a fleeting guest. This vision of an empty land became our accepted truth. But that perception was profoundly wrong. Beneath its endless canopy, hidden by the very life it sustains, entire civilizations have risen, thrived, and fallen, leaving a history written not in stone, but in the very soil and shape of the land, waiting for the right key to unlock its secrets. The first European explorers, like Francisco de Orellana, navigated its labyrinthine rivers and reported seeing great cities. But their accounts were dismissed as fantasy, the ravings of men lost to fever and ambition. The narrative that took hold was one of an empty paradise, an endless green ocean with only small, scattered tribes. This pristine myth shaped our understanding for 500 years. But that story is crumbling not with a whisper, but with a technological roar. The key is LiDAR, a revolutionary laser scanning technology. Fired from aircraft, billions of light pulses pierce the dense foliage, digitally stripping away the jungle to reveal the secrets of the forest floor. And what it's showing us is breathtaking. Vast networks of geometric earthworks, perfectly straight roads, and massive gridded settlement patterns. This isn't random jungle. This was a carefully engineered world, a landscape of sprawling garden cities connected by raised causeways, supported by sophisticated agriculture. Archaeologists now believe millions of people once called this forest home, in societies as complex as any in medieval Europe. The evidence is undeniable, but it raises a profound question. If these sprawling cities existed, what happened to them? What cataclysm could erase millions of people from history, leaving only rumours and ruins? Why do their metropolises vanish, swallowed by the very forest they once tamed? The answer may lie in a tragedy that began before explorers ever set foot in these cities. A silent killer that travelled faster than any expedition. Disease. Smallpox, influenza, measles, illnesses to which the indigenous people had no immunity, likely swept through the Amazon in devastating waves, creating a demographic collapse of unimaginable proportions. These complex societies may have crumbled in generations. By the time later explorers arrived, they were walking through a post-apocalyptic landscape. The jungle simply reclaimed what was lost. And the legends of golden cities like El Dorado, perhaps they weren't just fever dreams of wealth, but the last distorted echoes of a magnificent world that truly did exist, before it was tragically lost to time. For centuries, the Amazon has been seen by the outside world as a vast, untouched wilderness, a green desert teeming with life, but fundamentally hostile to human civilization on a grand scale. The prevailing image was one of small, scattered tribes living at the mercy of an indomitable nature. This vision of a pristine forest has shaped our understanding of the region's past. But what if that vision was based on a profound misunderstanding? What if the forest we see today is not a beginning, but an aftermath? To find the truth, we must rewind to the 1500s. Spanish conquistadors, fueled by legends of golden cities, were pushing into the heart of South America. It was here that explorer Francisco de Orellana, on a desperate journey for survival, drifted down a vast, uncharted river. His chronicler, Gaspar de Carvajal, documented something astonishing. Not an empty jungle, but riverbanks lined with great towns, some stretching for miles. He described advanced societies with bustling markets, wide plazas, and powerful chiefdoms. Carvajal wrote of a continuous line of settlements so dense that from one the next could be seen. It was a vision of a thriving, populous world, a civilization not of stone, but of earth and wood, perfectly adapted to the rainforest. Orellana's incredible account should have rewritten the map. Instead, it was met with disbelief. When subsequent European expeditions, some just a few decades later, followed his route, they were met with an unnerving silence. They found nothing. No sprawling cities, no bustling markets, only the dense, seemingly impenetrable jungle. The discrepancy was so total that Orellana's claims were dismissed as fantastical lies, the desperate exaggerations of a lost man. His story became a footnote, a cautionary tale, and the myth of the empty Amazon became historical dogma for nearly 500 years. The jungle, it was decided, had won. But today, the jungle is finally giving up its secrets, telling a story much closer to Orellana's than anyone dared to believe. We now know better. Groundbreaking archaeological evidence from enigmatic man-made soils called terra preta to vast geometric earthworks hidden beneath the canopy is proving Orellana may have been telling the truth all along. The cities were real. The people were real. Which raises a terrifying question. What happened to them? The answer doesn't lie in conquest or collapse, but in a far darker, more insidious explanation for why those magnificent cities simply vanished, leaving behind a ghost of a civilization. When the Spanish and Portuguese set foot in the Amazon, they didn't just bring steel, horses, or religion. They brought something far deadlier: disease. For millennia, the peoples of the Americas had lived in biological isolation, a world apart. Their immune systems had never been tempered by the litany of pathogens that had co-evolved with populations and their domesticated animals across the Old World. So when the first Europeans arrived, they unknowingly unleashed an invisible armada, a biological weapon far more effective than any cannon. Smallpox, measles, and later influenza swept through indigenous communities with unimaginable force. These weren't just sicknesses, they were firestorms. They travelled faster than the explorers themselves, passed along ancient trade routes from person to person, a silent, creeping death that announced the Europeans' arrival long before they were ever seen. The indigenous communities had no name for these afflictions, no traditional remedies, and no inherited immunity. They were utterly defenceless against this onslaught. Some historians estimate that over 20 million indigenous people in the Amazon basin may have died in the following decades. The number is so vast it's almost incomprehensible. This wasn't a slow decline, it was a demographic cliff. In many regions, mortality rates soared to a staggering 90 or 95%. The social fabric disintegrated. With farmers dying in the fields, there was no one to harvest crops, leading to widespread famine. With elders and knowledge keepers gone, millennia of oral history, ecological wisdom, and cultural identity were lost forever. Think about that. Entire civilizations erased in less than a century. Imagine a city as large as Los Angeles, gone. Now imagine not just its people, but its libraries, its governments, its art, its memory, all of it erased. Not conquered by armies, but by invisible invaders, microbes. The profound silence that fell over the Amazon was the silence of millions of extinguished lives. This is why Orellana's accounts make sense. This catastrophic event, the Great Dying, is the key that unlocks the mystery of the Amazon's lost cities. He likely saw those thriving cities just before epidemics reduced them to silence. He witnessed the last flickering embers of these great societies just before the pandemic wave crashed over them, leaving devastation in its wake. The few survivors would have been scattered and traumatized, their complex societies shattered into smaller, more mobile groups. By the time later Europeans returned, the jungle had already swallowed the ruins. Nature, ever present and powerful, began its work of reclamation. Within a few generations, massive earthen mounds, plazas and causeways were shrouded by vegetation. The cities of the Amazon didn't vanish into myth. They were hidden in plain sight, their stories silenced by disease and buried by the relentless growth of the forest. Modern archaeology is confirming the hints. Using LiDAR technology, researchers have identified sprawling networks of earthworks beneath the canopy. Roads, canals, causeways, even massive ceremonial plazas. Some of these complexes rival the sophistication of the Maya or Inca. The soil itself tells the story. In patches of terra preta, or Amazonian dark earth, scientists find evidence of sustained agriculture. This wasn't wild, untouched jungle. This was human-designed land, engineered to sustain millions of people. Now, here's where the debate gets heated. Science explains the collapse through epidemic disease, ecological disruption, and colonization. But others see something stranger. Writers like Graham Hancock argue that the Amazon might hide remnants of a lost advanced civilization. One older than the Incas or Mayans. His theories suggest the Amazon was once home to a forgotten mother culture, wiped out long before Europeans arrived. Critics call it speculation. Believers call it suppressed history. Local legends speak of El Dorado, the golden city hidden deep in the jungle. Some indigenous traditions tell of serpent gods, sky beings, and forgotten ancestors who built the earthworks before vanishing. Are these just myths or cultural memories of real civilizations? And what about the strange serpent motifs carved into stones and temples? Could they be tied to the massive anacondas of the Amazon, or symbols of something even more mysterious? Even today, the Amazon hides its secrets. Within a few decades, the jungle can reclaim entire villages. What chance do ruins have after centuries? But thanks to modern technology, from drones to ground-penetrating radar, we're peeling back the green curtain. And the picture that's emerging is both breathtaking and tragic. The Amazon wasn't an untouched paradise. It was a graveyard of forgotten empires. So, what's the truth about the lost cities of the Amazon? The evidence suggests there were millions of people here, building cities as complex as anywhere else on Earth. Epidemics and colonization erased them, but the jungle kept their memory safe. And now, piece by piece, we're uncovering it. Not fantasy, not myth, history. but a history as mysterious and as haunting as any legend. You've been watching the Mysteriousness channel. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe and ring the bell, because the mysteries we uncover are only getting deeper. And remember, sometimes history isn't lost. It's just waiting to be rediscovered.